Good evening. The planning board meeting will come to order on January 20th. Our two public hearings, 351 Willow Street, Bacon Joy, and 1046 Great Pine Road, Ruddock Estates, are going to be continued, although we will vote in the case of the subdivision, we will have to grant them an extension, so we can do that. So why don't we start with our first item, which is a bond release, Campion Road. What's the story there?
So 120 Campion Road received a watershed special permit in December of 13. It was to demolish an existing garage, put a 3-car garage on, and living space above that. They've completed the project. We have the as-built, we have the certified engineer letter stating it substantially complies. Matt Egge, actually, this was his last site visit.
Oh, okay, so he went out there. We like the site visits, we like the pictures.
He's confirmed that everything is as designed. These are some pictures. Conservation has also reviewed the final, and they have released their bond.
Okay, so you would recommend
I would recommend full
release of
release.
all the remaining bond
Yep.
money?
Full release. It's a $4,000 performance bond plus
Okay.
interest.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to release all of the performance bond for 120 Campion Road?
I'll make a motion to release the performance bond with interest for 120 Campion Road.
Okay, motion made. And
Second.
Seconded by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Let us go to the discussion items. 1116 Great Pine Road.
Again, I think Matt gave a little description of what was going on here. There's been some clearing this lot. I'm gonna show you the-
Again, where on Great Pine Road
I'm
is this?
bringing up the locus
Yeah,
right now, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you can see, that is Brook School to your left on that picture. The yellow highlighted lot is 1116 Great Pond Road. Okay,
This isn't the same one we had the problem with before, is it?
No.
no,
Okay.
no.
Now, what's the date on that?
This is taken from a My Map, so I'm not, I think it's down here.
Get a drone up there?
I mean, was that before or after the,
This is before.
before?
It is January, oh, that's when I printed it. I don't have the map of when the aerials were inserted in here, Dave, but this is the software we use.
So now, tell us, can you give us the 30-second
Yep.
background on this?
So this lot actually comes to somewhat of a point out here, and there's an island that, some of which can go underground at the high watermark of the lake. There was some trees that have come down through just different storms, that microburst that came through, so there was some trees that were down and removed, and there were others that were cut back here. There's a stone wall separating from the Brooks lot over there that is having some repair. You can see at the lower portion of this, some of this ground has been disturbed, so it's reconstruction of the wall, but there's also this.
We talked about this once,
Yes,
now that I
at the last
remember.
hearing, so this is some
Yeah.
pictures showing the area disturbed. It's really that very lower end of that original locust picture. I'll bring that up again. So,
This is one that Peter saw when he was.
right,
Yeah.
so Peter witnessed it. So it's really this lower left-hand corner primarily
Okay.
that has had.
And have you been, now, those pictures from you or from Matt?
These are from Matt, and Jen and Matt have both visited. I also have some pictures here. Andy Crittenton is the landscaper on the project, and the homeowners are here as well. They have been before Conservation at this point. Conservation has asked them to create a restoration plan. They've sent them a restoration plan as an example, and so they haven't reported back yet, but they are going to be asked to create a restoration plan.
Okay, which is what we would want them to do
Yes.
as well, right?
So certainly the 25-foot no disturb zone within conservation. they're going to ask for, and I'm not sure how much further, but
Pretty dead trees.
Yeah.
Some quite property.
So does anybody have any questions, Gene, before we start and we let the applicant talk briefly, or the violator, or whatever? I don't mean to be
Violator.
pejorative, but this is not a voluntary one, so, okay, well then, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Again, my name's Andy Crittenden. I'm the owner of AC Landscaping. I've lived in town all my life. Jack and Sandy Blazer, the homeowners on Great Pond Road. Again, this was kind of like more like a maintenance cleanup project that I did in their backyard that is down by the lake. They own a large piece of property, as you can see on the pictures. And as Gene has said, a lot of the trees that were cut were trees that were down from those microburst storms that had come through right over the lake. And I have pictures here of some of the piles of some of the trees that are still on the ground now. And as what was pointed out in the last hearing was that a lot of the trees are rotted and they were dead anyway. So the storms just had blown them over. So to maintain the property, we cut them up and trying to clean the area up. There is one section in the backyard that was, at one time, I think, an extension of the backyard that was overgrown with scrub from the stone wall side that borders Brooks. So again, it was just a matter of cleaning up what was there, and then we did reseed and replanted a whole new back lawn section. So it's not like we just cut and left. We cut and replanted, took care of the area. And the area that was cut down toward the water, closer to the water, it was just cut down to ground level. By springtime, I'm sure all the stuff is going to start to be growing back. And there is a picture of my front-end loader in the picture, and that was it to help repair the stone wall and to pick up the debris that we had cut. I was telling Gene earlier that we weren't there to uproot and dig up and regrade the whole area down there. That wasn't the whole plan. It was never part of the plan, and that's not what we did. We kept the same grade that was there, and what we had cut down, we reseeded. And then what was down close to the water, we just cut down to ground level and picked up all the fallen debris and crap, as you might say, that had been left there for the past several years. And that was pretty much a gist of what we did. We're there to beautify the property, not to disturb it or to do any damage. So that's the whole thing, the project, and it was kind of an ongoing thing the past several years, just to kind of, clean up the area and make it look nicer and better. So we know that there's some things that we are going to work on that plan, that restoration plan, and I have a designer that is going to help me with that in the next couple of weeks. I've been in touch with Jen on the phone to keep in touch with her, exactly what their committee is looking for. And this meeting is to hear what you would like to combine the plans and make sure we're satisfying both committees. And we're very cooperative, and the homeowners have been great with helping me and helping the committees to do whatever you think is right that we need to do.
Any questions from?
Well, you said you live in town, so you must have been aware this was in the watershed district and conservation land, correct?
Well, I am, and I fish in the lake a lot, every year. So I respect the land and the lake. I love the lake. It's North Andover's greatest asset. But working with the Conservation Committee in the past years, I was told that if long as something was down through damage and storms, it's legal to clean it up. So, and that's a lot of what we did, was just storm damage and falling down trees and cleaning up the debris that was there. Now, we did stuff that we did cut down to ground level. It was just kind of part of.
But reseeding.
We went.
But you said you reseeded.
Oh, and we reseeded, yes.
But there wouldn't have been any reseeding from down trees. So what was the reseeding from?
Put up that,
There's a.
these ones.
Gene, is it possible? Can you put up that one? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That right there. Down. You see, it's a lot of the tops of the trees here, but that.
Sorry, one second.
I don't have a pointer, but if you can see from that lower corner, if you go up the yellow line, if you go up right yeah, where it kind of evens off there. It looks like trees, but it's more like just overgrown scrub and brush that at one time, I believe, was part of the backyard where it should be squared off there. And that was what we had cut down and reseeded.
So when you say it's reseeded, grass seed,
Grass seed.
and that was within the buffer zone?
I guess it would be. Well, it depends on what you're calling high water as well. You can see another picture here that I have. This area here, that's kind of an area that kind of, it's not really an island, but it goes like a little bay that goes out into the lake. I mean, sometimes that you can walk on it, and other times it's underwater. You don't even know it's there. So depending on where you call high water, would depend on.
Jen, because she's going out there, she should be able to identify the mean high tide of the lake, because
Right.
that's really what defines
Yep.
what we would, but,
So the
I mean,
non-disturbance zone would be 250 feet from that high water mark.
Yeah.
Where conservation, they were 25 foot, so
it's more the immediate no-cut zone. It was pretty
Right.
clear that the no-cut, the no-disturb,
Yeah.
no-nothing
And I
zone
think Dave
was
was-
violated, and you're right, you can
Right.
take down trees, but you can't do anything else. It's meant to be wild to protect the lake, because the problem is the closer you see to the lake, the more there's runoff from stuff. So that's,
Right. And that's where we were part of the violation. Here you can see, whoops, where the lawn is. And all we did is, well, we cut back where it was lawn area, because we were cutting up into, all the way down to this line here. So that, what we had cut was not in the wooded area, it was within the line of the lawn area. And it just went over
yeah,
to
but the lawn may have even at some time gone closer
And I'm
than
not
it
saying that
should
we were
have.
right, I'm just saying
So,
that, just kind of explain to
any-
where the area was a little better.
Yeah, Dave?
We had a picture of afterwards.
what the,
Yeah,
the next
could you put that up?
yeah.
There was some,
So from that view, it looks much different than the overhead view in
Yeah.
terms of the clear.
Right.
I thought I saw something that had branches along the side.
You may have.
With that,
Yeah, it was a one year.
Michael, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Is that one, Dave?
No, I guess not. I guess I,
Have you put permanent markers on the property yet?
I have not.
Okay, do you plan on putting permanent markers on the property
Well,
so this doesn't
when I
happen
review
again?
the property with my designer, we will go out there and mark the area, yes. And we'll put our plan together.
Do not disturb line.
Right, because it looks like you're seeding into the non-disturb zone, which you can't do either.
Well, I wasn't exactly sure on the rules, but yes, I would say yes, we did the violation.
Yeah,
there's some
okay.
branches or tree trunks down on this picture. I'm not sure if they're dead ones.
That is part of that. We're at the final stage of our whole project here. There are some piles of some branches of some trees that were down. We left in the piles, and that's why the front end loader was there to help load the stuff and take it away. So that would be my last question to the board, and to see if we could still just pick those up and take them away. Jen's committee wanted to wait till we had this meeting here until you guys gave the okay to do that. She says, well, it'd probably be okay, but let's just wait for this meeting tonight. There's nothing more needs to be cut, it just needs to be taken away.
Aren't the requirements no equipment, no front-end loaders in the non-disturb zone on conservation end?
I think maybe the last
If-
50, but
Okay, the last 50, yeah.
The last 50, prior to that.
Yeah, so
I mean,
how far out are those?
They would be within the no disturb zone, they would be. And if you said there would be no,
Usually when you're allowed to do work in that area, you have to do it by hand. So you've already done probably most of the work by, machine.
we could do it by hand.
I
We could.
think that's Jen's committee
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting joint jurisdiction that we have here, because we're responsible for watershed permits and protecting the quality of the lake. But they have more expertise in the specific mechanics of these things, so I would prefer to defer to them in terms of the mechanics of the restoration plan, just because they're going to be more thorough at it than we are, and they
Okay.
understand it a little bit better. So Gina, have you seen the plan yet, or is she still working on it?
They're working on creating a
Okay.
plan.
Yeah.
Well, let's
So-
make sure that whatever plan we end up with, that we mutually agree to it, that conservation agrees to it, and we agree to it. You're satisfied with it. I think the plan should include some look at, how close the lawn comes to the lake and what fertilizers and so forth are used there, because we're, yeah.
Markers.
Markers for
Yeah.
no disturb going forward. There should be a no disturb
Yeah.
line established so that,
Grass is a
Can't happen.
danger, to the water. You get
I'm sorry?
Grass is a danger to the water, not the grass itself, but the fertilizer that comes down it.
Let me clarify that. This is actually, we don't fertilize anything on that property. We're probably, I'm going to say, 400 to 500 feet away where we cut the grass and fertilize it. This is a field. It's where the back lawn really stops is a large field that goes from the back of the lawn all the way down to the lake. So we only cut it maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
So what do, hay it, or is it?
We used to hay it, but it got to be not money, it just cost too much money to go the equipment up there. So now we just cut it probably 3 or 4 times a year to help keep the bugs down and keep it manicured.
the darker lawn area up closer to the house, you could see there's a
Oh, that's right,
defined-
from that picture is good, where it's dark
That's
green,
the
that's,
line.
And
then that's a hay
If
area.
you're not doing anything further down, then
No.
that's probably okay.
2 things I'd like to also point out, please, is that when we did clean up the area down by the water, we also picked up all the trash, tires, maybe a couple tires, cans, and stuff that had floated into the water, into the land area, boat seats and stuff like that. So it's not, we inspected the land down there, and we cleaned it up as part of the project. And also, Jen was happy to see that a lot of the trees that she could see when we went out there had all the vines I had pulled out from the trees that are living and still good. So I helped to survive these nice trees by pulling out the vines and poison ivy and all that. So the ones we, that are there are going to have at least a fighting chance to still, flourish
Yep.
and not get blown over and get killed
Yeah.
and dead.
Good, okay,
I
so,
think you'd want to do a kind of retroactive watershed special permit, or do you want to just work?
no, I mean, personally speaking, no, I don't think there's any fundamental reason to. That hasn't been a past practice. As long as we get the restoration plan, then it's reasonable. I don't know what anybody else thinks,
Yeah,
but,
no, it does,
yeah.
yeah. As long as it has permanent markers in it, because we always hear this, people didn't know where the lines are, and, if you live in town, you should know where. It's been public knowledge for 20 years, so you should know where the conservation lines are, so this doesn't happen again. We're not back here 5 years later, 10 years later with the next homeowner. And usually, large equipment, you don't want it down that close to the lake. If your fuel line busts, hoses can break anytime. It's not being punishing, it's just,
I understand.
that's a huge risk to the lake having, a back-end loader down there or something, a front-end loader, so. Those don't look too big of a limbs, you can always chain them and drag them out, keep the equipment outside the
Well,
zone,
there's, and I can,
Yeah.
the limbs aren't,
But,
yeah.
yeah.
I
you know,
understand what you're saying.
just
You're
keep-
right.
That's why, that's it, it's not to punish anybody, but the equipment shouldn't be that close to the lake,
I agree.
so.
Okay,
That's it.
good. So,
Just so you know, too, Jen has been on me on this too. She's been really strict with me. She wants to make sure the plan gets put together and put together right. So I have been working with her on, by email and a few conversations on the phone. So we're getting close to start to put our plan together for the replanting.
okay, and that, I think, is the critical thing. If you can make it better and protects the lake in the future, we'll
Yes.
just move forward.
How long do you think that'll take?
The plan, probably should have completed and marked within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would think, weather permitting. And then putting the, reseeding, we can start this springtime. Once weather breaks, we can start to reseed some things that need to be.
Okay. But just in terms of getting the plan documented,
Yeah, I think we should put a restriction on it has to be implemented by, the end of the planting season,
Well, at
no
least-
no later than fall,
I
end of
was
this.
thinking at least
yeah.
have the plan within 4 weeks,
Sure, yeah, about a month would be great.
approved by Conservation Commission. and then we can look
That's
at
fair
it.
enough.
Conservation once a month or twice a month? Twice. Okay.
Wednesdays, right?
Wednesdays,
I think so.
second and fourth, I believe, where we're first and third.
That I'm not sure
I
of.
think so. I'm not positive, but. Okay?
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Some of these are your
Okay.
pictures. Andy,
Yeah.
some of these are your pictures, so.
Okay. If you guys didn't want them for your file,
Actually, yeah, I will.
Jean does,
I
okay.
will
Jean
need them,
does, we
Andy.
just weren't
I just didn't
sure
want to
if
steal your
you
photos
had
if they were
like
yours, though.
see, that's again.
mastery of your artistry here,
It
yep.
was rotted, and they were coming down, and
Okay, yep.
That kind of made your case, showing that I did.
thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Wait, they do it, actually, how this one's-
Okay, Jean, Watershed Protection District. I know we were talking
Yeah,
about this
At the
last
last
time.
meeting, we talked about a error that is existing on the table today. I have gone back to the annual reports. Find it. Good night. And 1995 was when the annual report that the conservation zone was added to the bylaw. And I now think it's much simpler fix. The original is highlighted here in yellow. What the intent was to add the conservation zone 150 feet horizontally from the high water mark and 75 feet from the edge of our wetlands. And these are for lots post-1994. They described the table, what it was before, and you can see in bold and yellow highlight is what was to be added to the table and what was previously there. So they increased the size of the non-disturbance and the non-discharge zones, and they added the whole conservation zone at this time. And down below is what the table should look like, effective if this was to have approved. However, what had happened at some point since then, the table today in the narrative references 150 feet, but it twice says from the wetland resource area, where the first one should be annotated saying from the annual high water mark, and the wetland should be horizontally added.
Yeah.
So, again, it's, I think, administrative at that point.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so we'll
And the-
just put it on the warrant and
And
change.
the table also has 100, that's the more significant one. So that table needs to go back to 150, and then we don't have that 50-foot no man's land, which really
Yeah,
does exist
yeah.
today.
Turn into a pumpkin and,
So you-
wonder if this property was in that zone, yeah.
so my question was, do you think administrative?
I don't know, it's
Approval,
almost
or do you want it-
typographical. If it was approved
Well,
from the annual meeting.
what was approved at town meeting, was it correct?
In 95, yes.
And was it
That
just
is the warrant.
transcribed wrong?
See,
That's what it
Yeah.
looks like.
That's,
it
Because
look-
if it, I mean, we might want to check with Joyce, but if it was purely a transcription error
Yeah,
and not a drafting error, if it was a drafting error and what got presented at town meeting was what is now in the bylaw, I would say we'd have to go
and
back.
that's what I believe is the case. What was presented is that 1995 warrant, and it was intended to be 150 feet, which the narrative
But
had.
in the warrant, was it, if, what was approved at town meeting
Yeah.
then got put into the book wrong, we could change it. But if what got presented to town meeting was wrong, and that's what we voted on, we'd have to change it at town meeting.
Okay, and I think it's the first scenario that you said, but I'll just confirm that with
Yeah,
Joyce.
if you could do that with Tara, and
I-
then I think you can make an administrative change
Yeah.
if they cut and pasted wrong, but.
Yeah, I
because
think at some
effectively,
point, it
you-
was probably right, and then somebody edited it and inadvertently made a mistake, but. And non-disturbance instead of disturbance
Yeah.
there as well.
Let's
But
see,
I'll,
who can we blame for that?
there's been so many. But I'll confirm with Joyce in
Yeah.
terms of the procedure of it. And it's-
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Because it did, once I got the original, I thought it's more administrative, but,
Yeah, okay. good.
okay, and I think we're down to,
Speaking of town meeting, our new district, anything to update us? I know we have some members of the board have started. Did you meet yet, or?
we did have a work group meeting. Both Michael and Lynn attended, as well as Eric, myself, John Smolak, David Steinberg, and Seth Zevin. think it was very productive. You know, we came at two different ends of it. They're going to now rework a lot of our comments, and we'll probably have to get together one more time.
Yeah.
We talked about, rather than doing a whole separate overlay district, though, to actually combine it within the downtown overlay, maybe downtown A and downtown B.
I mean, we did that with the CDD 1 and 2, if you remember,
Yeah.
each sides of the street, because the way the streets were different on each side, so you could do
So
something
somewhat
like
more
that.
similar to that, yeah, to keep it as one
Yeah.
overlay,
Yeah.
where they're so close
That's
in
okay.
proximity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good, well, great, that's great. Let us go back to the 1046 Great Pond Road, Ruddock Estates. It's funny, because I think, you know, in my early years on the board, we saw tons of subdivisions. We were seeing them all the time, and we were incredibly busy then, and there were a couple times where the way the clock tolls for subdivisions is you have to render the decision within a certain number of days, whereas in special permits, you can roll them over almost indefinitely, and you don't need extensions. And there were one or two times where we actually, we missed, and subdivision was constructively approved. And that's the thing we want to avoid at all costs, and that's part of the reason why we have this form that we have as a formal form, and we make everybody, if they have a subdivision, want to extend it, to fill it out. So I guess we got an extension once for this one, and they want to extend again. So what I'd like to do is to have somebody make a motion to accept the request for extension in the matter of this Ruddock, what is it called? Ruddock Estates subdivision 1046 Great Pond Road, to extend the date to February 28th, by which we have to render a decision.
I'll make a motion to accept the extension for 1046 Great Pond Road until February 28th.
Okay.
Second.
Great. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, and I have to sign it, so can you?
What's the
anything-
delay on this? I mean,
I thought it was almost done.
Yeah, they're still working out the stormwater issue between the butter property and the town's property, so they're still meeting on that.
Good, anything else?
Yep,
Jane?
just one other housekeeping item. I believe I left with you a letter of authorization to allow me to sign decisions and plans until we replace the town planner. So that form actually goes to the Registry of Deeds.
Is that
with a-
this thing?
Yep, each
So
one of
we'll all
you.
sign that,
Yeah,
right?
each one of you need
Yeah.
to sign.
Oops, my name's spelled wrong. I have an S. I've become a university.
Sign.
You have to sign it with the S then, otherwise it's invalid.
No, you cross it out.
Cross it out, initial
That's
it.
contract
Cross it
law.
out, initial it, and then
What's that?
you can,
I'm just teasing, it's
Good
contract
teasing
law.
me, good. Yeah, I know that. I do contracts too, but, yeah. And let's see, there are the minutes, the
Minutes.
January 6 minutes.
One change, he had 2014 on the top.
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 6, 2015 meeting minutes as amended.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, have a motion to adjourn,
Movie adjourned.
and do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.